Thank you for staying tuned. It's time for us to now preview the upcoming round in Division 3, and also we've got one game in Division 2. We'll also do a mini review of what we've seen so far in the opening 8 rounds. There's been some pretty even competition across Division 3 and Division 2, and we've seen it all across all the NFL this year, with Division 1 of course being so tightly contested. And on the weekend we saw South Morang up against Watsonia. We thought it could have been a bit of a blowout, but to Watsonia's credit, they lost by, in the end, with 70 points. They're only down by 6 goals at three-quarter time, and far better showing than what they put up against Parkside the week before. And of course, they had their first win in round 6, so some positive signs that they've actually bounced back from a pretty disappointing loss. And I guess for South Morang, you just take the 4 points, but a lot to take out of it for Watsonia.
Yeah, obviously, for South Morang, you'd always take a 70-point win and 4 points. But yeah, for Watsonia, even when we were talking about it last week, thought it could have got towards the triple-digit mark, but they did really well to be pretty much, well, not right in the game at three-quarter time, but they weren't that far out of it, and then that last quarter, I would say, just got blown away a little bit, but yeah, it was pretty good by Watsonia.
It was a good effort, and this week they have a bye again, Watsonia, because we have only the 2 games in Division 3 with the Queen's birthday break, but South Morang takes on Panton Hill. That should be a really, really good game. It's first up against third. I think actually South Morang might have got the second just on percentage from the weekend, but they haven't lost since round 1, so they're in really good form. And Panton Hill's also in some pretty good form. They've had a wretched run with Idru, as we've mentioned last week, where they lost 3 players before half-time the week before, and it happened again. I think they've lost another 2 players in the weekend, so they can't take a trick, but despite all that, they still come away with a 130-point win over Heidelberg West, and they've got some spirit, I think, Panton Hill. That these 2 teams actually played 2 weeks ago at Panton Hill's home ground, and it'll be reversed, of course, this time around. But last time there was South Morang by 4 goals. Panton Hill was down a couple on their bench, and I think they would have learnt a bit from just playing a fortnight ago when they come up against each other again. But I think for mine, still South Morang's in some really good form. Only losing the 1 game this year by 5 points to St Mary's, and I'm going to back them again this week.
Yeah, it's amazing that they meet again after obviously playing just a fortnight ago, which is a pretty short amount of time left, so they'll be very familiar with each other this week. But even after they were able to get a massive win against Heidelberg West last week, I can't really tip against South Morang, unfortunately, for Panton Hill.
Well, they kicked a fair few goals, 29 on the weekend, did Panton Hill, and Tristan Cranberg kicked 9, it was a fair effort, but John Byron, who missed a couple of games through suspension there, I think it was 3 in the end, of course, with a bye, he missed a month of football, and after 3 weeks of the year, he was sitting second on the goal-kicking ladder, comes straight back in, kicks 5, and it's a credit to his own personal performance to come back in and just get straight in amongst the goals. So I'm sure he's definitely one player South Morang we'll have to keep an eye on. And of course, South Morang on the weekend, Shane Whitnell kicking 4 goals, so just getting back amongst the goals there. St Mary's and Heidelberg West is the only other game in Division 3 on the weekend, and St Mary's are the bye on Saturday, and they've had some really good run so far going into that. After the opening 8 games of the year, they're sitting 4th on the ladder, and it's a great performance. Last year they only won the 2 games, and I guess they were a new club last year, having their first year, and got quite a few beatings. But this time around, they've actually really turned it around, putting in some really good showings. Their last match they came from, I think, scores were level against Reservoir at three-quarter time, came away with a 5-goal win, so they're definitely the most improved side in Division 3 this year, and shouldn't have too many problems with Heidelberg West on the weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately for Heidelberg West, I don't really think it'd be pretty tough for them against St Mary's this weekend. Yeah, St Mary's, a great win against Reservoir a couple of weeks ago, obviously coming off the bye, as you said, Sammy, but yeah, not much hope for Heidelberg West, you wouldn't think.
Well, they haven't won a game, unfortunately, this year, and I think they'd actually put in some pretty good, despite losing a few games, they'd actually put in some pretty good showings, and of course, lost that one against Watsonia. They really would have wants to win. Of course, they're up by 5 goals at three-quarter time, let it slip, and I think on the weekend they had a bye, I think last week, and come back on the weekend, got a pretty bad flogging, unfortunately. Watsonia, as we mentioned, just a 1 win so far in Division 3 this year. That was against Heidelberg West. So the bottom 2 teams probably struggling a bit. Next, in 5th spot we have Reservoir, who on the weekend lost to Parkside by 4 goals. Second time they've lost to Parkside this year. And Reservoir, a team I really thought would push hard for the premiership this year, to be sitting 5th spot in the ladder at the moment with only 3 wins. It's a pretty disappointing start to 2011.
Yeah, I think when we spoke about the start of the year, we all had Reservoir at least up in that top sort of 3 sides in Division 3, but just hasn't panned out the way they would have liked this year, and they've been sort of pretty inconsistent as well. They've been really good in some games, and others they've been a little bit poor. So yeah, just the main thing to work on the second half of the season for Reservoir will be getting that consistency week in, week out.
Well, we did mention it seems to be 1 week they play well, the next week they're a bit down in form, but they've lost 2 in a row now, so they'll be disappointed in that. Parks, on the other hand, get the win, the 4 points, and stay on top of the ladder. Dallas King kicked another 3 goals, kicked 15 in the past 2 weeks, of course, kicked a dozen. pardon me, last week, and they've had a really good start to the year, Parkside, and every chance of pushing up in Division 2 next year. I think, personally, I think that both Parkside and South Morang are the two teams down to be their first and second, and despite the fact that Panton Hill and St Mary's aren't that far behind, I think there's a bit of a gap between the two sides, and I actually do believe at the moment, the way it's actually running, I think Panton Hill will definitely make the finals, and it's between St Mary's and Reservoir to push for that spot, that fourth spot, and of course St Mary's getting that win last week against Reservoir could be crucial come season's end. Scores were level, as we said, in three-quarter time, and that one quarter of footy really puts forward their chances of making the finals for the first time in their short history. Still a lot of footy to be played, of course. There's 19 rounds in Division 3 this year rather than the 18 that Division 1 and 2 play. A lot of footy to be played, but I definitely think the top three won't change from what it is at the moment. I think Panton Hill's had a great start to the year. Despite the injuries they've had, they've still been able to win games, and they'll back themselves against St Mary's this time around. Of course, last time they had Byron and Garrard, and they've gone down by 4 goals with only one man on the bench after I think about halfway through the second quarter. So they've got a lot of talent there, but I still think the Parkside and South Morang are the two teams to catch in 2011.
Yeah, they definitely are the two teams to beat at the top, and on the form in the first half of the season, they should be definitely the two teams to be favourites for the grand final.
Well, in Division 2, there's probably two teams that are out in front of the pack at the moment. They're Laylaw and Lower Plenty. Just the one loss between them so far in the first 8 rounds of the year. Of course, Laylaw defeated Lower Plenty in round 6 in the NFL match of the day. Pretty comfortably in the end by 7 goals, but other than that, Lower Plenty hasn't put a foot wrong. Of course, Laylaw undefeated, as we said, so they're the two favourites early on in the year. Laylaw plays this week. They take on Thomastown. It was a split round in the Division 2 this week. Of course, 3 games happen on the weekend. One will happen on Sunday this week, and Laylaw against Thomastown. I don't think they'll have too many troubles there.
No, it should be. You'd think that for Laylaw, especially on a Sunday, they should get a pretty big crowd down there for the only game for the weekend, but they shouldn't have much of a trouble with Thomastown.
Well, they've been on fire, and I think a lot of it goes down to their full forward, Peter Shepherd. You can't just harp on the goal kickers because, of course, you need the midfielders to supply that ball, but he's fantastic to watch. He's hit 40 goals already in just the 7 games so far this season now. He's been in fantastic form. He's a pleasure to watch, and I think with him, as good as the Lower Plenty forwards are, they've got 3 big men down there. I think he's still the best forward in the competition in Division 2, and they've gone pretty far with him on board. As I said, I don't think they'll have too many problems with Thomastown on the weekend. Of course, Thomastown has recorded a win in their last start against Mernda, so they'll go in with a little bit of confidence. It's only a win of the year, but sitting in 7th place at the moment, they'll give themselves a chance of winning, but I think Layla will definitely go in as favourite. You think they'll win by probably, I'd say, 8+ goals. On the weekend, we had a few pretty interesting scorelines, a few really tight games, and first one was Lower Plenty against Epping. We watched them in round 2 when they played, and it was Epping going down by 58 points on their home paddock. On the weekend, it was a lot closer. It was Lower Plenty still got the chocolates. They won by 15 points. It was a shootout. It was 22 goals to 20, and Epping put in a far better showing this time around, and they've shown that they really can match up with the top 2 teams. And of course, Epping hasn't lost since round 2. Now they've lost again on the weekend. So the 3 losses in the opening 8 games, but they went on a 5-win run there, and I think they averaged to win by about 70 points. So it's some pretty convincing form there. And they'll give themselves, despite a loss to Lower Plenty on the weekend, every chance of pushing far in 2011.
Yeah, I think the biggest worry for Epping, just out of the Lower Plenty matchup, it's obviously the second time they've played this year, and again the tolls of Gil Barden and Darcy Barden were dominant. Again, they were the 3 leading goal kickers for Lower Plenty on the day, so it's both times they've played this season, Epping have really struggled with the tolls up forward, so going to finals times will be something they'd want to work on for their matchup against Lower Plenty.
It's a great point you make, and on the weekend, Benny Gill kicked 9 goals, fantastic effort. Billy Barden kicked 4 and Darcy kicked 2, and as you mentioned, it happened, in round 2 as well, so it's I guess every team struggles to contain forwards of that calibre, but Epping's had a real problem so far. But it really was a shootout. It was, I think, 3 goals of difference at 3/4 time, and Epping came out the first 2 in the opening 5 minutes of the final term, so it was really game on. And I think the margin was about 10 points for the majority of the last quarter. Lower Plenty kicked 2 late goals, and Epping did kick the last goal of the game, but it was sealed by then. But a really good game, and Daniel Moore again for Epping, best again, and he's having a fantastic season for the Blues, and really pushed hard. I think he's one of the leaders in the best and fairest, I think, this year. Definitely one to watch. The other game on Saturday was Mernda against Diamond Creek, and Mernda have had a pretty tough start to this year, and kicked I think it was a 140-point loss in the end, 146 points, and they kicked 5 goals, kicked them all in the 3rd term, so the other 3 quarters combined, unfortunately, only the 2 points, but Diamond Creek definitely one of the strongest sides, and I think sitting 3rd on the ladder again, and once again, after only a 5-point loss to Laylaw the week prior, they're going to give themselves every chance of pushing those top 2 teams again this year. Brent Gutterson with 9 was the leading goal kicker.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at the stats for men when they're able to kick kick 5 goals in that third quarter and actually beat Diamond Creek for that quarter, but then we're only able to muster 2 points across the other 90 minutes or so for the game, which is a bit of a strange stat, really. You don't expect to see that too often.
Well, it's interesting because I guess for Mernda's sake, it's a positive to take out of the game because Diamond Creek's a really good side in Division 2, and to win a quarter against them and win it by 2 goals is a fantastic achievement. But then I guess on the flip side, they've gone down in the end by I think about 20 odd goals, and they'll have to ask themselves what happened in those other 3 quarters. Of course, they're a bit undermanned at the moment, but they would hope to put on a better showing than that. But Diamond Creek showing they are really one of the strongest sides in Division 2, and yesterday. On the Sunday at Vic Park, it was Hurstbridge getting their first win since round 3 when they knocked off Thomastown. On Sunday it was Fitzroy Stars at Vic Park. They played each other in round 2 and it was Fitzroy Stars by 4 goals. Hurstbridge said they took a lot out of it, and on the weekend down by 3 goals, come back in the final quarter and won by 2 points in a pretty interesting game, and it really hurts Fitzroy Stars' final chances.
Yeah, it'd be disappointed for Fitzroy. They have been pretty inconsistent so far this season to obviously be up by just 17 points. It was at 3/4 time, and then lose by the 2. So just a late collapse, which they definitely should do without. And then going towards final times, it really puts a bit of a dent in their chances.
Well, it is hard to know what to make of it. Almost like Reservoir in Division 3, where they have some good weeks, but against probably disappointing to lose to Hurstbridge. But we've also seen Fitzroy against the top 4 sides this year haven't really got too close. I think losing to Epping by 7 goals, I think, was their closest margin against the top 4 sides. So at the moment, we see in the top 4, we've got Laylaw, Lower Plenty, Diamond Creek, and Epping. Can you see that changing in the second half of the year?
It'd be tough to think much would change. Obviously, even Diamond Creek, it'd probably be the 4th team in that bunch, and they've been in some great form all year. So you'd think that 4, the order might change around within the top 4, but you think the combatants will be pretty much set for the finals.
I'm in total agreement with that one there. I think there's a bit of a division between the top 4 and the other 4 teams' competition. Fitzroy Stars, as we said, have really hurt their chances with that loss, but inside the top 4, I think it's anyone's game. I guess we've seen Laylaw, they won pretty comprehensively against Lower Plenty, but Diamond Creek really pushed them to the line. It was only a 5-point win, and conversely, Lower Plenty's had a really good win against Diamond Creek, but Epping on the weekend has shown they can really push them. And so there's pretty tight games in between. Of course, when Epping took on Diamond Creek just a couple of weeks back, it was a fantastic comeback, and Epping won by, I think it was 4 or 5 points in the end. Of course, Aaron Willis' goal in a dying minute turned a 6-goal deficit around. So I think amongst top 4, there's no guarantee. I don't even think Laylaw and Lower Plenty are the best 2 teams, but on any given day, I think any of those sides can beat each other. So it makes for a pretty interesting second half of the year, but also an interesting finals campaign looking forward, because on their day, as we've mentioned, there's any team who can take away the title.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what you want to see really when you go into the finals, and you can say, well, there's 4 teams that could all realistically, obviously within themselves, they'll say they could win the premiership, but realistically they could actually do it as well. It's not like it's just the teams sort of pumping themselves up. They're all so even. Obviously, Labour have beaten Lower Plenty of things when we saw them a couple of weeks ago and won pretty comprehensively, but other than that, it's been pretty much even the whole way through. So,
well, yeah, I expect it to happen for the rest of the year as well. I think too much would change in the second half. We're in for some pretty exciting action across both these 2 divisions, and of course in Division 1. So make sure you keep getting out to your grounds on a Saturday, and on this Sunday actually go down to Laylaw, see them take on Thomastown. In Division 3 we've got games at South Morang and at St Mary's on the weekend, so make sure you're down there and supporting all the boys. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll be back next Thursday to preview all the Round 9 action. Keep staying tuned then. See you later.